Alrighty. Okay. All right. So tomorrow we have a quiz. Remember that. Tomorrow we have a quiz, 3 questions. It's short. So 4 points each. So 3 questions, 4 points each. How much is the quiz going to be worth? 12 points. So Aaron brought up a good point. He's like, if I miss one, it's going to hurt, right? Because there's only 3 questions. It's going to hurt my grade. Well, that's why you have, I'm going to give you a paper like I did last time with the sections, right? Because if you miss a question, I can still give you partial credit. Because a lot of times when you make mistakes, it's just little things. So I could take off maybe a point instead of all 4 points. Okay, so that's important for you. It's not important for me, because remember when you're inputting things on Delta Math, sometimes you input it correctly, or you think you input it correctly, your answer's right, but it doesn't agree with the answer. So that's why I back it up with paper, so that if that does happen, I can give you points. Okay, because that happened on the last quiz. On the last quiz, a few people, Delta Math, the answer of Delta Math was wrong, but I looked on their paper and it was correct. So I was like, oh, it's correct on paper, give them full credit. Okay, so that's why I grade it the way I do. I grade it with rubrics. The answer is only worth 1 point. So let's say I have a paper that only has answers on it. They're all right. Well, you'll get 4 points. What's 4 out of 12? 33%. What is a 33% grade-wise? Okay, so you'll get credit for getting their answers. I only get 1 point for the answer. So 3 questions, 1 of the points for the answer. The rest of it is for the process, because I want to see how you got there. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. All right. So today, you can see the on the board here and on your notes, I put the steps. Anytime it says factor completely, these are the steps we're going to use. Anytime it says solve, these are the steps we're going to use and we've been using. It's not like they're new, right? It's the steps we've always used. So when you put these in your notes, remember tomorrow on the quiz, you can use your notes, right? You always can use your notes, so you'll have it there. So today's are a little bit, I added a little bit of tweak. I add a little tweak to it, but it's pretty much the same. I did that so that we can kind of review as well. Okay, so GCF, greatest common factor. How many people have heard of the term GCF before? Pretty much all of you. It's the largest integer. Integers are positive and negative whole numbers, okay, that divide evenly to all values present. Okay, so let's look at the first one. 18m plus 20. What is the GCF here? What is the biggest number that goes into both? 2, we got 2. Anything bigger than 2 goes into both? No, right? 4 goes in here 5 times, but it doesn't go in there evenly. 6 goes in there, but it doesn't go in 20 evenly, right? So it's going to be 2. So when we write this, we say GCF equals 2. And then we divide by 2. So how do we write our answer? We write our answer like a reverse distributive property. We put 2 on the outside. After I divide by 2, what do I get? What's left when I divide by 2? 9, right? So I write 9m, right? 9m on the inside plus 10. That's how you factor out the GCF. Now, how do I know if I did it right? What's the way to check it? Distributive property. Distributive property. Yep. Distributive property. If I multiply, I should get 18m plus 20, and I do. Okay. The next one. What's the GCF there? 3 and 5 both work, but there's actually something bigger. 15. There's actually 15. Yeah, we want the biggest. 3 and 5 work, but they're not the greatest. So we divide both by 15. The GCF is 15. So we put the 15 out in front. And then after we divide, what's left? Just A, right? 1A. We could put a 1A. You could put 1A, or you could just put regular, just plain old A. Minus just 2, because 15 goes in 2 times, right? If I were to do distributive property, I would get 15a minus 30. Okay, letter C, what do you get? Even bigger than 4. 4 is not the greatest. 4 is 8, -8. So you see the negative out in front of the 8 here? Anytime that happens, we not only want to divide by the 8, let's divide by -8 as well. Because -8 is an integer, it's on the number line. So is it wrong just to make that 8? No. But for what we're doing today, I would always try to make the first term positive. It's just going to make your life easier in the end. Okay, so a negative divided by a negative makes a positive x. Negative divided by a negative makes a positive 4. Okay. Okay, last one. -3. But this one's a little different, right? What else do they share in common? A W. W is a number. A letter is a number. We don't know what number it is, but they both have it. So we can also divide by that number too. So we're going to put a W here and a W here. Okay, so negative 3 divided by -3 just makes a 1, right? So we're going to put a -3W out front. That makes a 1. 1 what? W, because I took away a power, right? W squared, let me write it over here. W squared divided by W, like I have right here. Well, W squared means W times itself, and W by itself just means by itself. So one of them out, one cancels out this guy with just plain W. So same thing here. There you go. Yep. There you go. And then this guy will be negative, just plain old -5. No more W's. That W cancels out. Okay. That's the new step we're going to see today. If we can do that, sometimes we can't do that. If we can do it, let's do it. If not, start with your regular old steps that you guys have been doing in the past. Okay, so the next ones, the next 2 boxes are just the steps. Okay, so cross out one of the steps. So step 1 for the first box, it says set the equation equal to 0. Well, how can you set the equation equal to 0 if there is no equation? So cross out that step here. That step shouldn't be here. Okay, if it's an equation, sure, you could set it equal to 0. But if it's not, then how can you do that? So that's why I cross it out. All righty. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Example number 1. Okay, so it says factor completely, right? If it says factor completely, we're going to start with this list over here. These are our steps. Not worried about these steps here because it doesn't say solve. So I'm worried about factoring steps. Okay, so first one, is there a GCF? If there is, take it out. If there's not, so let's look. Is there a GCF? There is a GCF. It's 5, right? Can't all of these be divided by 5? 5 can be divided by 5, -10, -400. It's only a GCF if all of them can be divided by 5. Okay, so that's going to be the number on the outside. So what's left? X squared minus 2x minus 80, right? 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into -10, -2 times. 5 goes into -400, -80 times. Okay. Now my next step says ABC, which we've been doing, right? I'm only concerned from now on, I'm only concerned with the stuff on the inside. The 5 just comes along for the ride. It's important because it means we divided by 5 at the beginning, but it's not going to affect anything else. So let's do ABC now with the stuff on the inside. Okay, so I divided by, I divided by 5. So A is 1, B is -2, C is -80. So what are the two numbers that multiply to be -80, but add up to be -2? 10 and 8, which one's going to be negative? 10 or 8? 10, there you go. Because it also adds up to be this guy here. Okay. Let's move back over here. So the 5 stays out in front, but I get x minus 10 and x plus 8. Okay, so I factored out 5. ABC already did multiply. I got these. I'm down to step 5 now. The last step is bottoms up. Divide by A, right? Well, what is A? What was A at the beginning? 1. So when I divide by A, is it going to change anything? No. But I always say divide by, do bottoms up, because it's stuck in your memory. If you're on the test and you're like, or quiz or test and you're like, do I do bottoms up here? Do I do bottoms up? Yes, do it. It won't hurt. If it's not needed, it won't hurt. Okay. And it said factor, right? So if I was doing a problem on Delta Math, this is how I would write right here in my answer box on Delta Math. I would write it exactly like this with parentheses and all. 5 out in front, parentheses x minus 10, parentheses x plus 8. Okay. Mm-hmm. Bottoms up. Bottoms up. Okay. All right. Do number 2 now. Do number 2 on your own. Okay, so does this one have a GCF? Yes, it does. Yep. So I can divide by a GCF. What number is going to go into all of those? 3. Good. Luckily, when I divide it all by 3, the numbers also go down. They get a lot smaller, which helps. So I get x squared plus, was that 14x plus 13? A, B, C. Let's see, A is 1 now because I'm only focused on the inside. I don't focus on the 3 on the outside. It's been factored out. So I'm looking for the numbers that multiply to be 13, but add up to be 14. Well, there's only 2 things that multiply to be 13. It's a prime number. 13 and 1, yeah. Plus 13, plus 1. Last step, bottoms up. Well, I'm dividing by 1, so it's not going to change anything. It's just going to stay 13, and it's going to stay 1. Question said factor, so I leave it like that. Okay. So the vast majority of these steps are stuff you've done before, and the stuff you'll see tomorrow on the quiz. Now, are there going to be any GCF problems on the quiz? Probably not, but it doesn't hurt to try. It doesn't hurt to try. Okay, because it makes it smaller. Okay, makes everything smaller. Instead of 3, 42, 39, I have 1, 14, 13, much smaller numbers. Okay, all right, so example number 3. Example number 3. So now the directions have changed. It says solve. So we're going to use these steps right here now. It doesn't say, there's no equal sign. That's a typo. It should be equal 0. I just noticed that right now. It's a typo. Okay. Your solves will always have equals. That was just a typo that got cut off when I was making these notes. Okay. Okay. So already set equal to 0. That one's done. Factor out a GCF. Is there a GCF? Don't count the 0. We don't count the 0 with the GCF. But is there anything I can factor out without the 0? So no 0. -2, right? Looks like a -2. They can all be divided by -2. I'm glad you guys said -2 because we want x squared to be positive. Okay, so GCF is 2. -2, sorry. So we're going to divide by -2, divide by -2, divide by -2. So I get a -2 on the outside. Negative divided by a negative just makes a positive x squared. 1x squared, you can write 1x squared. Negative divided by a negative here makes a positive 16x. And then a negative divided by a negative here makes a positive 15 equals 0. Okay. Again, what's on the inside is what I care about. Okay. ABC. One 16, 15. 1, 16, 15. A, B, C. So we're looking for the numbers that multiply to be 15, but add up to be 16. 15 and 1, yep. So they add up. Add up 2. That guy right there. Okay. Bring it back over here. X plus 15, X plus 1. Okay, so we're down to here now. Next is bottoms up. So A was 1. So divide. It's not going to affect anything since A was already 1. Okay. So we're here now. So I have 2 things here, right? This and this. Actually, I have 3, but don't worry about the -2. That's not going to affect anything. Set it equal to 0, right? Just like I've been doing. So X plus 15 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. Minus 15, minus 15. Minus 1, minus 1. That's a great question. That's exactly what I was going to say. Great question. So what about the -2? What is a -2 playing? Okay, so go back to what we said originally. Doesn't this look like a multiplication problem right here? Doesn't this look like a multiplication problem right here? Right? And the answer is 0, right? So something has to be 0. So it's -2 times whatever this is times whatever this is has to equal 0. So something has to be 0. So we figured out these 2 guys, right? Why don't we do it with the -2? Well, you could do it with the -2. The problem is, if I set -2 equal to 0, is that true? Is -2 ever going to be the same thing as 0? So I don't care about that one because it's not true. I know something's got to be 0 here. Something's got to be 0. Either this or this, but there's no way for -2 to be 0 because I know it's -2. Okay. All righty. Okay, last one. Factor completely. So we're going to follow the first set of steps. Is there a GCF? What is the GCF? If there is? What is the GCF if there is one? 5x. They also all have an x. If they all have an x, I can divide by x as well, just like I did in that one in the earlier problem. So I have a 5x out here. So this is just going to be x squared, yep, because the power goes away. The next one is -7x because the power goes away. And the last one is just like that. -10. Inside is what I care about. 5x I don't really care about right now. Okay, so factored out the GCF, done. ABC. In the yellow, that's what I want to know what ABC are. Okay. So we have 10 because 10 times 1 is 10. There you go. -5 times negative, not -5, -2. -5 and -2, because they also add up to -7, right? Okay. So we got x minus 5 and we got x minus 2. Okay. Down here now? Bottoms up. Stays -5, stays -2. That's how I would put my answer in the answer box if I was doing a delta math problem. Okay. All righty. Okay, so I want to do some practice, but I don't want to give you any delta math work because we're probably, because I gave you one yesterday already and it's still due today. So, but I still want to do some practice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hand out some markers and you're going to do it on your desk. Okay. So if you have someone next to you, if there's someone next to you, you're going to switch like we've done in the past. If you don't have anyone next to you, then you can just do it on your own. Okay. Most of you guys have someone next to you. So we'll talk about, oh yeah, tape. Let me pass around tape first. Tape. Tape this in to the next open page, which is page 16. I can, yeah. You want me to? Yeah. Yeah, I'll post it on Google Classroom. So just skip that page for right now.